Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 wants to take you back to the blood old days. Vast open worlds with nuanced characters and complex stories are all well and good, but sometimes when playing a video game, you just want to move forward and kill things. Such was the appeal of 2011's Space Marine, a gloriously straightforward action game about a very large man with very large weapons murdering enemies by the Goliath truckload. The sequel hopes to recapture the simple pleasures of the original, but with better visuals, bigger set pieces, and bloodier combat. Space Marine 2 sees players once again don the immense power armor of Titus, who, after being investigated for heresy following the events of the first game, has been demoted from captain to lieutenant. But there's good news too. A massive Tyranid hive fleet has appeared in Imperial space, meaning Titus will have plentiful opportunities to prove his loyalty to the Ultramarine chapter. Like the original, Space Marine 2 is a third-person action game, with combat that blends ranged and melee attacks. But there are a few important differences. Titus is now a Primus Space Marine, meaning he's bigger, more powerful, and better able to carve through writhing Tyranid swarms. Which is fortunate because writhing Tyranid swarms are one of Space Marine 2's main features. The most recent gameplay trailer shows 40K's insectoid menace blotting out the skies and pouring over the Imperium's colossal Gothic architecture. This is more than a background visual flourish, too. Titus will quickly find himself fighting for his life in the thick of those roiling alien masses. Out of this world. Although Space Marine is decidedly old school in its attitude, there are a few modern considerations. Titus's combat abilities have been adjusted to make him better at crowd control. He can now counter incoming enemy attacks Arkham style, such as grabbing Tyranids by the throat as they leap at his face before slamming them to the ground for a quick finish. He can also wield some melee and ranged weapons simultaneously, hacking at foes with his chainsword while blasting more distant targets with his plasma pistol. Finally, Titus can perform execution attacks on enemies, tearing them apart with his bare hands. There's more to this than grisly thrills, however. Executing enemies replenishes Titus's armor, letting you push aggressively into combat, similar to the recent Doom reboots. Not surprising, given Saber Interactive's chief creative officer, Tim Willits, was formerly studio director at ID Software. You can also expect a lot more 40K goodness from Space Marine 2. You'll get to shred enemies with bolt guns, roast them with flamers, slice them up with plasma swords, and of course, mulch them with the Thunder Hammer. Moreover, while the Tyranids are the primary adversary you'll face, they aren't the only one. Titus's encounters with the forces of chaos are far from over. At some point during the game, you'll square off against the Thousand Sons, a traitor legion of Marines who worship the chaos god Tzeentch. Whoever you're fighting, you can guarantee that you're going to be massively outnumbered. But you won't be alone. As in the first game, Titus is accompanied on his mission by two other Ultramarines named Cheiron and Gadriel. Unlike the first game, other players can fill these roles, letting you take the fight to the enemies of the Imperium in 3-player co-op. Originally slated for release late last year, Space Marine 2 was shunted back to September 2024, shortly before its scheduled launch. It's quite a substantial delay, one that suggests Saber Interactive wasn't fully satisfied with the game in its current form. It isn't clear whether the game just needed a bit of tuning up or if more substantial rework was required. But either way, hopefully that extra time will let them polish up Titus's armor to a glimmering sheen, so we can better enjoy just how messy it gets when Tyranid limbs start flying.